Hej och välkomna till Aktiedagen i Lund med Aktiespararna den 26 september 2022. Jag heter Gunnar Vrede och ska ställa några frågor till det här bolaget som kommer att presentera sig nu. Ni är också varmt välkomna till att ställa frågor i chatten där ni tittar, eller ni här i lokalen också. Den som presenterar Hansa Biopharma är Klaus Sindahl, Head of IR at the company, and you will keep this presentation in English, right?
I'll do it in English, but afterwards we can also take questions in Swedish if necessary.
All right. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning and welcome to this presentation, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here today and present at Aktiedagen. So my name is Klaus Sindahl and I'm Head of Investor Relations at Hansa since 3 years back. Before I continue my presentation, I always need to of course make you aware of my forward-looking statement. So of course you need to make discounts when we are talking about future statements. So for those of you who don't know Hansa Biopharma is a commercial stage biopharmaceutical company. We're actually based here in Lund, just across the street, and we have actually obtained our first conditional approval in kidney transplantation, which was received some 2 years back, and we're now starting to commercialize in select markets. Beyond an organization and operation here in Sweden, we have also expanded our presence in Europe and in the US, as we have now started the commercialization in Europe. We have a broad pipeline in both transplantation and in autoimmune diseases. And now with the conditional approval, we have turned into a commercial stage pharmaceutical company. We are roughly 150 people. Half of them would be here in Lund. And the average tenure within life science is around 20 years. So a very experienced organization. More recently, we raised, we got a new financing with NovaQuest, a $70 million non-dilutive financing, which will extend our cash runway through to 2024. We have a market cap of roughly 3 billion Swedish krona, and we are listed here on the stock exchange here in Stockholm. So Hansa has actually seen a lot of achievements, good progress over the last 15 months. So among others, we have made 3 partnerships. We have made a partnership with Addressable, where we are exploring the potential for combining our lead technology in imlifidase and Addresable's technology, which is an FcRn inhibitor, efgartigimod, to see how we can potentially enable more therapeutic use, more value in some of the, especially autoimmune diseases, where you need an acute treatment and a treatment afterwards for maintenance, keeping down the IgG levels. Also, we have done a commercial partnership with Medison Pharma based in Israel, and Medison will be our distributor in select Eastern European markets as well as in Israel. And then in the beginning of this year, we also did a second partnership within gene therapy with a company called Aspire, which is owned by Bayer. And the idea here is that we are exploring, or we are investigating our technology imlifidase in potentially enabling Aspire's gene therapy in a disease called Pompe disease. This is the second partnership within gene therapy. As some of you may remember, we did a first partnership within gene therapy with Sarepta Therapeutics 2 years back, involving 2 indication areas, Duchenne muscular dystrophy and limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. And I'll get back to that in a second. Then we have also seen very good progress on the market access side. We have obtained pricing reimbursement in a number of markets, namely some of the larger markets, Germany, UK. We got a positive recommendation from NICE just before summer. We got an early access program in France early in the spring. And more recently, we have also obtained pricing reimbursement in Poland. So a lot of good progress on the market access side, which is of course necessary for a drug like imlifidase to enable transplantation. If we go a step back and talk about the features, the mode of action of our technology, then imlifidase stems from or originates from a bacteria, Streptococcus pyogenes. And what it does is that after a 15-minute infusion, it cleaves IgG. IgG is 80% of our immune system, and it does that very fast and effectively. So basically, after 15-minute infusion, you see that your IgG level is almost inactivated. It's reduced to below detectable level, which you can see here on the right-hand side of the slide. So very, very effective, very, very rapid action from our technology. And this is relevant in a number of different situations. So when you suffer from an immunologic attack, like in an autoimmune disease, or to potentially enable transplantation, like we now have approval for in kidney. So a very useful drug for monophasic diseases. If we talk a bit about the potential indication universe for our technology, then imlifidase, our lead technology and approved candidate, it has relevance in a number of different areas, as I mentioned before. So we see ourselves as a platform. So we have tried to depict here that there are like 4 different buckets where our technology, our current technology, has relevance. So in transplantation, it's both pre and post. So to enable transplantation, but also to avoid potential rejection episodes where patients, for various reasons, start to see an organ starting to be rejected. Then the idea is that you can neutralize that attack. And beyond kidney, we also, I mean, it could be relevant to look into lung and heart, but of course kidney is the largest indication within transplantation. Then if you go to the left hand corner, you can see this is the acute autoimmune disease space. Autoimmune diseases, I mean, is a very large indication area. There are more than 100 diseases in that indication area. And we are relevant in the more acute ones, like Guillain-Barré syndrome, like anti-GBM. And we have, right now, we have published very encouraging data from a phase 2 program in anti-GBM, which is an ultra-rare disease, maybe impacting 1.5 patient in a million, but patients who today cannot really or see any approved drugs, so where the standard of care is plasma exchange, where it's very ineffectively, and we have seen that 2 out of 3 patients we have been treating, they can achieve dialysis independence. Whereas normally it would be up to 70-80% of these patients who would progress into dialysis or even lose or even die, I mean, lose their kidney within 6 months. So very, very encouraging data that we can actually show the opposite, that patients survive and in general do good again after treatment. Gene therapy, we touched upon before. We have 3 indication areas still in preclinical phase with Sarepta and AskBio. And then the 4th bucket is within oncology and new therapies, where we have started to explore hematopoietic stem cell transplantation, also known as bone marrow transplantation. So this is a new area we're looking into. To the right-hand side, you have our next generation of enzymes. So this is where we're trying to enable repeat dosing. Which is more suitable for chronic diseases. And here it's a new set of enzymes we're looking into where you can, in cases where it's relevant, keep down the potential occurring flares. If we just to spend 1 minute on our business model, then to the left-hand side of this slide, you can see our IgG enzyme, IgG antibody cleaving enzymes. So this is our growth engine. This is what we are set out to do. So as we develop new enzymes for new pharmaceuticals, we try to, or we anticipate to control the various value chain components until commercialization, but not necessarily that we own them, but at least control them. And as we approach commercialization, we have 2 strategies. So first and foremost, we expect or we anticipate to build up our own commercial infrastructure within transplantation and autoimmune diseases. We believe this makes sense because the target or audience is fairly small. So if you look at the number of transplantation clinics in Europe, it's actually quite few who actually do these kind of transplantations. So going to Norway is only one clinic in Oslo. Same in Finland, one clinic in Helsinki. Sweden, you have 4 clinics. In Denmark, 3. In Germany, you may have 30 clinics, but 5 of them would be leading centers, which we are targeting. So this is our strategy to address those markets with our own commercial infrastructure, with our own territory managers, and then keep the majority of the value capture ourselves instead of going through a partner. When it comes to gene therapy and oncology, the strategy is somewhat different because we are not the lead asset here. We are reliant on another technology, for instance in gene therapy or in oncology. We are more like an enabler. So here it makes sense to go through a partner, of course. As I started out saying, we have now the first approved product in Europe, IDifrix, commercial name for imlifidase. And the approval we got, or the label we got, is based on 4 phase 2 studies, where we have shown that we have enabled kidney transplantation in 46 patients, so 100% efficacy rate, and it's a safe profile we have on our drug. And this label, there's not really any current therapy today other than sit on the wait list and waiting for an available organ. And these highly sensitized patients who are incompatible for a donor, so this is the label we got, make up 10 to 15% of the kidney wait list today. So it's actually a rather large number. And this is depicted in the orange square to the right upper corner. And if we should try to translate this group of highly sensitized patients into an addressable market population for Hansa, then roughly 170,000 patients are today kept on the wait list across US and Europe. And if we apply this 10 to 15% to that wait list, it would be roughly 20,000 patients who would be relevant for us. But since organ availability still is a limiting factor for organ transplantation, it would only be 1 in 4 who are actually transplanted every year. So that would translate our addressable market down to perhaps 4,000 to 6,000 patients, and we will then take a market share of that across Europe and the US. We've now started to commercialize our drug. And since this is a commercialization based on 4 phase 2 studies, it's a conditional approval. It's a transformative new therapy where only few centers have actually experienced with our drug. Only 5 centers were involved in the 4 phase 2 studies. We have to take out a commercial launch strategy which is rather sequenced and focused. We are only focused on the leading transplantation centers right now because we want these centers to be centers of reference for others down the road. So it's very, very critical for us that transplantations are carried out successfully, that both the clinicians, the patients of course, experience or get good positive experience with the first transplantations enabled by imlifidase, and we expect actually that these transplantations will be monitored 4, 5, 6 months perhaps before the clinics take on the next patients. It's a fairly expensive drug. It costs around 3 million Swedish krona, but it's also a price which resonates very well because the alternative is dialysis, which is roughly 750,000 kroner for a patient annually, right? So in this case, you can enable transplantation, so patients get actually their life back. Today, when you are stuck in dialysis, you have to go to the clinic, you have to clean your blood 4 times a week, between 4 to 6 hours, and you can be stuck on that system for years. We actually had a first patient case in Spain with a 54-year-old patient who had been on dialysis for 38 years and now has been successfully transplanted. So these are a good example of what we can actually achieve with our drug. But we need to carry out the launch strategy very careful, so it will become a new standard of care, and we see good experiences with the clinics. Also, we need to build market access in individual markets in Europe, which takes time. And we need to get reimbursement, of course. We need to increase awareness around our drug. So in a couple of years from now, we then expect growth to be much more accelerated as we obtain full approval in Europe, as we obtain hopefully an approval in the US. We are running right now a phase 3 study in the US, and then we also anticipating to enter new markets in the rest of the world where we can build off the EMA approval. So in a couple of years from now, we should see a much more exponential growth versus today, where it's going to be fairly low initial uptake and volatile growth between quarters. So just so everybody understand that this is the strategy that we are not focused on volume initially. We are focused on successful transplantations, and that will lead to a foundation for our growth going forward. And then as a third wave, we are pursuing or can pursue living donor transplantation. The first indication is only for deceased. We can also pursue AMR, which is these rejection episodes after transplantations, where perhaps 5 to 7% experience these rejections for various reasons. Here again, it's just a map showing where we are in terms of market access. We have now received market access in a number of key markets, as I mentioned before: UK, France with an early access, Germany, recently Poland. We have it in Sweden, we have it in Finland, etc., Greece. And we still have 10 market access process ongoing in Europe, where we expect to see Italy and Spain also be completed toward the end of this year. So we have seen good progress so far and expect that to continue, obviously. Last year we had roughly 10 clinics clinically ready to take on our products, and we expect that to expand to roughly 25 clinics by the end of this year. So very few clinics, as I also mentioned during my presentation. A brief overlook of our pipeline. So beyond kidney transplantation, we have also the anti-GBM program, and we expect to commence a new global phase 3 study in anti-GBM. This is the ultra-rare indication I mentioned before, where we have seen very, very convincing data in a phase 2 program, where 2 out of 3 patients reached dialysis independence, and normally it would be at least two out of 3 patients who would progress into dialysis or even die within 6 months. So very transformative if we're successful in obtaining an approval in this indication. This would be the first indication within the autoimmune space. Then AMR is also a study to look out for. We completed enrollment in a phase 2 study earlier this year in May, I believe. And we expect data to come out, first high-level data to come out of that AMR study sometime around end of November, potentially December, so 6 months after completion of enrollment. So that will be very interesting to see how we potentially can stop these acute attacks and avoid an organ to be rejected. Guillain-Barré is another autoimmune indication we are investigating, and we are 2/3 in the enrollment and expect that to be completed also later this year. As I started out saying, Hansa should be seen as a platform. It's not a one-product company or a one-trick pony. This product is very, very unique, and it can be used in so many different settings. So this is what we're trying to depict here on this slide with this growth wheel, both in terms of our technology, which can expand to both combination and repeat dosing with the NICER program and the collaboration with argenx. We also have these 4 indication areas which we potentially can address. So beyond transplantation, it's autoimmune indications, it's gene therapy and oncology. So 4 very large spaces which has relevance for our technology. So this is definitely something which is interesting to see down the road with this kind of a platform. We recently got a new financing agreement in place with NovaQuest, which will finance or extend our cash runway into or through 2024. Non-dilutive agreement, which will finance our US ConfIdeS trial, so this phase 3 program in the US. It will also finance the phase 3 program in anti-GBM, as well as the 2 phase 2 programs in Guillain-Barré syndrome and in AMR. So we are well financed into the future. And with this, I have my final slide here with upcoming milestones. We are starting the anti-GBM study this fall. We are completing the preclinical work, the toxicology study with our next generation of enzymes, NISA. Then we also anticipate to complete enrollment in the US phase 3 trial, as well as we expect to see the first data readout in AMR in the phase 2 program later this fall. So a lot of interesting upcoming milestones. And with this, I will hand it back to Gunnar, the moderator.
Thank you very much, Klaus. 3 million kronor for treatment. Mm-hmm. Who will pay it?
But that's the whole idea with these reimbursement, market access reimbursement agreements. We have now seen a number of key markets, including Sweden, the Netherlands, France, Germany, UK. And it resonates very well because the alternative is dialysis. It's 750,000 kroner annually. So if you sit on dialysis for 5-10 years, this is much better for the healthcare systems. It's better for the patients. They will get their life back. Some would even get back to work, etc. So overall, this is the thinking around the pricing.
You are getting reimbursement agreements on all markets that you address.
Yes,
you haven't
basically.
Got a no somewhere.
We have not gotten a no anywhere. No.
Okay. We are talking about orphan drugs. Right. That is how you can manage phase 3 clinical trials.
Yeah, we got conditional approval based on phase 2.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get that in a special incidents where you have convincing data and you can address an unmet medical need, and this is the case with imlifidase.
Yes, I mean with an orphan drug, the demands on the phase 3 is slightly bit lower. Right?
Yeah, I mean
that is how you can manage it in-house with relatively limited resources.
Yeah, absolutely. But you still need to carry out what you call a post-approval study, and we're actually doing that in parallel with the commercialization, also to broaden out the experience with our drug in new markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The interesting thing is that you, as you said, you control the value chain.
Yeah, that's the idea with the business model. Yeah.
But you didn't with the IDifrix.
No, we control. I mean, of course, there are certain elements of the value chain which we have outsourced. For instance, manufacturing. I mean, there's no idea in Hansa taking on production. I mean, we have handed that out to 2 manufacturers to help us produce the drug, of course.
I also mean that this financing round you did with NovaQuest Capital meant that you did not dilute the shareholders, but practically you have to give away a piece of it.
Yes, but it was a very attractive deal, very attractive terms we got. We essentially just have to pay 2x back, and we are not paying back anything until we have received approval in the US with either our phase 3 trial in kidney transplantation or in anti-GBM as another phase 3 program. And once we have obtained approval, repayments will be done through either royalties or milestones or in combination. So this is the idea that we by end of 2028 have paid back 140, so 2x to the 70 million. Normally, if you look at equivalent deals, it would be 4x or 5x. So this is actually a very smart deal, very smart financing.
Okay, I know that a CEO of a company never comments on the stock price, but you are head of investor relations, so let's see how you respond to this question. The Hansa share, the stock exchange in general has been harsh on everybody. The Hansa share has gone down 75% since January 2001. And during the same period, you have initiated the commercialization. What did I miss?
I don't think you missed anything. But of course, markets have been very volatile. I mean, if you look at the leading biotech index, XBI, we have basically followed that curve over the last 12, 15, 18 months. Secondly, what you also see in a sector which is very depressed, you see shorters starting to come in, right? Which is, I mean, because it's a snowball effect, they know, you know, the need for cash will occur. So this is, I mean, this is what you typically see. I mean, you have seen these kind of patterns both in 2001, 2008, 2015. So it seems like it's occurring every 7, 8 years, right? But Hansa is in a very solid position. We have a commercial approved drug. We are obtaining pricing reimbursement. But of course, the launch will take time until we have, I mean, good solid sales year over year. I mean, clients or customers are not coming back. This is a one-off treatment. I mean, so we also need to ensure that we create a solid foundation at the clinic to have doctors buying the drug over and over. Yeah.
What I mean is that you are in a stage, you're in a takeoff stage. You are getting reimbursement contracts in Europe. You are commercializing. That's the stage of a company where you should take off. But to share one.
Yeah, but I mean, many times you also see that, I mean, when you have a new drug, I mean, you're very over-ambitious, I mean, on the potential. Of course, you also need to manage expectations. We have been very clear on the strategy that, I mean, this will be a sequenced focused launch. And I mean, it will take a few years before we'll start to see the real ramp up in sales. But this is by intention we are doing this, because, I mean, we cannot have something going wrong for a drug like this, because it's basically a product, a pipeline in a product. This can be used in so many different indications. So we need to carry out this in a diligent manner and ensure that we see good positive outcome.
Yeah, okay. So to finalize this reason, the deal with NovaQuest, was it that because the dilution would have been too great since the share price was so low?
I mean, in this kind of environment, I mean, you are obviously looking at alternative forms for financing, and this is one way to do it, right? Yeah. I mean, we could also have raised capital. We've done that in the past, right? But this would be at a very low share price, of course, which is not ideal for anyone.
Yeah. Of course. Yes, we have a viewer question, which is, you said that Hansa is financed until 2024, and then will you need more cash, or will you reach break-even?
Since the intention with Hansa is to explore this technology platform, we don't have any short-term ambition to be profitable. I mean, we will reinvest the proceeds from the commercialization to actually explore new indication areas. I mean, this is a textbook example of how you can actually leverage your technology. If we pursued short-term profitability, I mean, we could probably do that, but would it be good for shareholders? I don't think so, because then we would stop investments in new indication areas, and which is not the idea with our platform. As I showed with the growth wheel, we have so many opportunities at hand. So we want to reinvest the money. But of course, on a product level, we could probably reach profitability shortly if that was the strategy of the company.
Another question, maybe from the same person. What is the burn rate of the company right now?
We spend roughly 125, 130 million Swedish kronor per quarter. So a little more than half a billion annually, right? So.
All right. Our time is up. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you so much for your interest.
Thank you. Jag ska vidare med ett bolag